This girl was standing carrying a bus, when suddenly a car flew in from a distance. She stood still in a daze. The car slammed hard. The hat quickly rolled towards her at a speed of 5 m on the rope. She was so scared that she rolled her eyes, and her whole body stiffened and didn't know how to run. The car was getting closer and closer to her. By the time it was only 0.01 meters away from her, a mysterious man suddenly appeared and hugged her, then turned around to avoid the car. The car slammed hard against the ceiling of the bus, and the glass shattered into hundreds of small photos. Just when the two of them thought they were safe, the danger was still approaching. The car touched the sky of the bus, and at the beginning of the car hit the ground, the rear of the car also slowly hit the two of them. After the noise ended for a long time, the two of them were still unharmed. When the girl opened her eyes to see the scene in front of her, she was even more surprised. The guy in front of her could only use one arm to support a car that weighed a few tons. At this time, Einstein's theory of relativity was no longer true. But because of where she was injured, she didn't have time to see the face of the boy who saved her and fainted. Her name was Jerome, and as soon as she woke up, she didn't have time to bandage her wounds, so she rushed to the airport, because she had been waiting for this interview opportunity for 3 years. But the people in charge of the interview, after seeing Jerome's bleeding head, advised her to go to the hospital first. But Jerome must have an interview to go. But before she could say a few words, Jerome fainted. But this tenacious spirit of hers touched the female leader. Just like that, a clumsy girl like Jerome was accepted as a passenger service at the airport. But on the first day of work, she was in trouble. At the airport, a man with a suitcase repeatedly hit the automatic check-in machine. In addition, he was dissatisfied with the discriminatory behavior of airport staff. Why can someone else go to the counter to get the ticket and you have to get it on the machine to do this procedure? After learning the reason, Jerome hurriedly went to explain, but he didn't want to hear an explanation from a familiar employee. Crazy picked up the suitcase and wreaked havoc in front of Jerome. Jerome went up to stop him, but she couldn't stop the man. In the end, Jerome didn't hold back anymore, opening his mouth to scold the other man repeatedly. This time, he was really angry and immediately grabbed Jerome's collar. And Jerome didn't hold back from pushing his gold hand away. He had been about to strike Jerome, and at this time, a handsome guy appeared and grabbed the other man's wrist. This handsome guy's name is Sujian, and he was also the one who single-handedly helped save Jerome. The man wanted to remove his hand, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do anything. But Sujian was extremely calm at this time. At this time, Sujian said to the other man, asking if he knew that this automatic check-in machine costs 20 million won. 20 million? He smashed and lost 3 of them, so it was about 60 million. 60 million? At this time, the other man was frightened and hurriedly lowered his voice and asked what Sujian wanted all along. Sujian slowly leaned into the man's hand and said, "That is, he is old." He was then taken away by the airport security staff, after which Jerome thanked Sujian for helping him. His mother asked him if he was normal or if he would like to go to any airline to give him some incentives in exchange for thanks, but Sujian sighed. I should have introduced first, Lee Sujian, who works in the customer service department. What are you going to do now? He broke 3 machines, what? After his superiors learned about this, he scolded Jerome for a fight. She was annoyed in her heart and went to find a close friend who worked in the same airport as her to tell her suffering. But she suddenly hears her friend tell her about Sujian's story. He is a very good learner, treats the people around him very coldly, and does not get along with anyone. Earlier, something happened at the airport that wanted to make everyone who worked in the airport know about him. At that time, an employee was in the process of transporting the cargo. Due to the rush of time, he pushed the truck carrying the cargo away quickly. There was always a child standing in front of his path, but because his vision was obscured, he could not see the boy. At the moment when 1,000 pounds were hanging by the hair, suddenly a man rushed over. At this time, everyone was surprised by the scene they had just seen. And the cargo cart that he picked up, that pillar had been squeezed to the core. This power was indeed very terrifying. After he carried the baby away, all the new suitcases slowly fell to the ground. His name is Sujian and he is an employee in the airport. Thanks to this case, everyone who works in the airport knows him. But what people didn't expect was that Sujian was a type 1 disabled person. 10 years ago, due to a traffic accident, he lost an arm and a leg. Luckily, he met a doctor, who fitted him with a metal arm and leg, with 66 chips attached. On the outside, he can live and act like a normal person, but in reality, his arms and legs have boundless strength. That day, Sujian was standing in the rain on the porch, and a girl accidentally splashed rainwater on his sleeve. And when she kept apologizing for the miraculous thing that had happened, when the two of them looked at each other, they didn't expect that all this was due to luck. Sujin then took the face of the instruction paper and returned it to Zelrum. Zelrum was so surprised that she stood as if waiting for her husband. Although he was a cold person, he didn't say anything more, and took the umbrella and left. After I made Sujin, I met Zelrum again, and Zelrum recognized him as soon as he looked at me unexpectedly. Zelrum was in the same department as Sujin. It seemed that once again, luck had locked the two of them together. From there, their story officially began. Not long after, there is an old woman in the airport who has lost her child. She hurriedly asks Sujin for help at this time. Zelrum also came to help. As if to know that her son is already 31 years old, Zelrum is extremely surprised, thinking that Sujin is joking. How can a 31-year-old adult get lost? You look at this. After Zelrum looked at the other person's medical records, he immediately realized the seriousness of the problem. In addition, he suffers from mental illness. If you don't find someone soon, there is a good chance that something unexpected will happen. Immediately after receiving the news, he ordered all the staff to look for him, and the only clue they had was that the man was wearing a yellow shirt. Zelrum and Sujin a group. When Sujin went to the toilet to check, the Zelrum suddenly saw a man in a yellow shirt in front of him. So she didn't wait for Sujin to go out and chased the other man alone, waiting for Sujin to come out of the toilet when he saw that the Zelrum was gone. After that, he used the piano to communicate with Sujin. Zelrum hurriedly turned off the fiddle behind him. She was afraid to pull out the moving paper, but the other man still found her. Then he went into the toilet. At this time, not far away, a man called the airport staff. His eyes glanced horizontally and asked the airport staff why the flight schedule had changed. When the employee answered, his face began to twitch and go crazy. Who said you could do that? Why did you dare to crash the flight without telling me? How dare you? The other man's unusual act of speaking confessed to Zelrum's attention. Perhaps he was the one she was looking for. Suddenly he went crazy and hit the airport staff. Zelrum hurriedly came to advise. The guy thought the Zelrum was the doctor who came to take him home. While he was talking, he suddenly lost control and exploded next to the metal pole next to him, hitting the Zelrum. Sujin suddenly appeared and hugged the Zelrum to protect her, then raised his right hand to catch the opponent's attack. But the strange thing was that the tree was suddenly bent at an angle of 90 degrees. Obviously this was not reasonable at all. So the mentally ill patient was scared with all his soul, but Sujin was extremely calm, and there was no wound on his body. When the Zelrum was protected by Sujin, she immediately remembered that she had met him a few years ago. Turned out that a year ago, she was at the bus waiting for the bus when a car crashed and overturned. When it was about to hit her, Sujin appeared in time, blocking the car that was about to hit her with her arm to save her life. After returning, Zelrum remembered the scene earlier. She was sure that Sujin was the one who saved her that year. So she goes to Sujin and asks if he has ever saved her before. But Sujin denies, saying that the two have never met before. But through what had just happened, Zelrum didn't believe Sujin's words. Sujin hid this because of his body. On his metal arm are 66 smart chips connected to nerves. Because he didn't let others find out that his body was not normal, he lived a cold life trying to keep his distance from others. Even if it was a colleague, he kept the same attitude. When I was eating, someone sitting on the opposite side wanted to eat with me. As a result, he didn't eat anymore. The food tray went away, and then went to make noodles alone. Just when this scene was seen by the Zelrum, Sujin saw that he hadn't eaten yet. Zelrum specially bought him bread. I didn't expect that. When the Zelrum poured hot water mixed with noodles, I carelessly spilled a glass of noodles. Sujin hurriedly reached out to help. A second later, his whole hand was burned to the point of burning red. Zelrum was scared and hurriedly took the stone out of his hand to give him the pain to relieve him. But Sujin said, "I don't feel any pain. Look at it, it hurts. Don't you feel pain?" "Yes, I didn't feel any pain." Zelrum was so surprised that after being eaten by a dozen, Sujin was dumbfounded and didn't understand why. He warmly explained that only his right hand and arm did not feel pain. At this time, Zelrum knew that he had made a bit of a heavy move and hurriedly apologized. At this time, Sujin saw the stupid Zelrum girl suddenly smiled. That day, the airport's customer service department suddenly received a threatening phone call. A mysterious man claimed to have planted a bomb in the airport. Just at this moment, the Zelrum was working when she saw a man wearing glasses. He secretly put a black bag in the trash. Zelrum was extremely curious, and Ben carefully opened it with his hand to see what was inside. She was immediately surprised to see the item inside the bag. Then she called the customs police to come and see. When they saw the contents of the black bag, they were also extremely surprised. Unexpectedly, in the bag were gold nuggets that cost up to billions. After that, the police immediately took the gold away. Not long after a couple appeared, they were sneaking around looking for trash cans, as if they were looking for something. While they were on the phone, the Zell room next to them accidentally overheard their conversation. She was sure that they were related to those gold nuggets. At this moment, Susan suddenly appeared, and Zell room hurriedly told him about it. But he told her that this was a customs matter, not related to their business. Zell room thought that this was more important than the work they were doing. Moreover, she always longs to be praised by her superiors. How can she easily ignore this opportunity? So she went to the guard room in the Flying People and told them about it. Arriving at the office, she thought she had just made a great achievement. Seeing that there was no one in the room, they immediately danced and celebrated. But at this moment, her group leader Zelcool walked in. Zellroom happily walked over and told Zelcool what he had just done. For thought he would be praised by the leader, but Zelcool didn't think so, but asked the other way around, "How is your Zellroom work?" At this time, Zellroom didn't know what to say. What's wrong? Are you throwing him alone to manage such a large area?" At this time, Zellroom realized that she had neglected her work. She was extremely sad at this time, and then she went to see Sujian, who was working alone, to complain. She thinks that Sujian has a high level of education and is the favorite leader of the group. And she is not capable and likes to cause trouble. Only when she tries to get a little achievement will she not be bullied by others. But this thought of hers was objected to by Sujian, which made the Zellroom very uncomfortable. Because of this, they had a heated argument, and then the two angrily separated from each other to work. On the other hand, the customer service area received a threatening phone call. It is said that in half an hour the people flying will be exploded. At this time, Sujian went to the break room to drink water, and suddenly heard someone calling. At this moment, the terrorist caller was also caught by Sujian. When Sujian turns on the light again, he sees a boy who looks like a high school student. He shouted, "Sujian, hurry up, don't worry about it." But Sujian still didn't stay silent and didn't speak, because he knew that if he continued to act, he probably wouldn't be able to stay here anymore. When the other boy was satisfied, Sujian immediately grabbed him by the collar and knocked him to the ground. Then he dragged him out into the hallway, using only one arm to press him against the wall and couldn't move. In addition, he didn't want to travel to Japan for free with his parents, so he made this malicious joke. And his parents were the two people who had just been denounced by Jerome. "My cousin brought goods to the smugglers, so I was able to travel for free. Surely they also have to pay for their actions." After settling this, Sujian quietly followed after Jerome. He realized that he was too heavy just now, and the person holding the radio said, "Han Jerome, I was a little too much with you before. I'm sorry." Just at this moment, a billboard suddenly fell on the boy's body. Fortunately, Jerome was able to save it in time. At this time, Jerome realized that although his work seemed small, it was not worth anything. But it also plays some very important roles that cannot be underestimated. That day, Jerome, Sujian, and the customer service department were sent to another area to work. When the leader of the other department who worked with them came to greet him, Sujian suddenly looked extremely cold. Because this man 10 years ago had paralyzed him with an arm and a leg. He is also Sujian's brother named Inwoo. Because he saved his brother, his right arm and right leg were broken on the spot. After treatment he saved his life, but since then he has become a crippled person. He couldn't accept himself like this, and the side that went to the stairs was going to end his life. But just as he was weighing the controls, a doctor suddenly appeared to save him. Even more fortunate is that through his many years of research, he made him a leg and a hand with a cold needle. From there, Sujian can restore his life as a normal person. That day, Sujian accidentally met his brother at the airport who he hadn't seen for 22 years, and hadn't seen him for a long time. Now Sujian's brother is in charge of planning and operating the airport. Apparently, Sujian also recognized his brother. But his eyes were extremely cold, seemingly unhappy when the two brothers met again. Now the two of them are no different from strangers. After returning to Inwoo, he wonders why Sujian can be like a normal person. According to him, he went to find Sujian's employment record, on which it was written that Sujian was wearing a machine to support his activities. This made him very surprised. Later in the meeting, he used the excuse that Sujin was wearing an electronic device on his body that affected the safety of the airport to ask for an investigation order for Sujin. After learning that Sujin had come to see Inwoo, after arriving at an empty place, Sujin asked his brother why he had to investigate the matter. Inwoo said bluntly that he wanted Sujin to leave here, saying that Sujin is still the same as before. He likes to follow others, which annoys others. At that time, he told Sujin not to follow, but Sujin refused to listen to him and got into a traffic accident. It turns out that 12 years ago, Inwoo was beaten by a group of thugs and caught in a car. Sujin was worried about his brother, so he drove a motorcycle to chase him. On the other day, because he wanted to cut off Sujin's tail, he suddenly braked suddenly, and Sujin couldn't handle it in time and crashed directly into the rear of the car. Sujin was lying in blood and looked at his brother, "Brother, sign me with." But Inwoo took the opportunity to escape camp now. When he met his brother again, he received an explanation like this. "Why did you chase after him? How did you get out of that accident?" Sujin is so angry that he grabs his brother's collar and asks if he is his brother. But Inwoo said, "Because my father remarried, we only had that short fate. Aside from the outside, you don't mean anything to me." Sujin was extremely disappointed. He couldn't help but shed tears, and slowly let go of his hand, facing the bastard. After that, he could only pour his fear into a metal plate next to him after he left. Inwoo silently shed tears. Actually, Sujin didn't know that Inwoo was doing this to protect him, afraid that he would be hurt. The woman has the right to cry out to the point of giving in just because Jerome prevented her from throwing the custom ceiling tape. Now she was crying out again for Jerome to kneel down and apologize just because her father was a member of the National Assembly. Because she had bought too many goods abroad earlier, her luggage was overloaded and fried and sealed. And because she wanted to evade customs duties, she secretly pushed her luggage to the toilet. And just as she was about to tear off the seal, she was caught by the security guard at Jeonju Airport who had just returned from work. So Jeonju called the prisoner after the other woman learned of Jeonju's identity. The two quarreled just as Jerome was passing by. He heard the two arguing. After entering, she hurriedly advised the two of them the other woman was about to throw the sealing paper away, but Jeonju held it back. She immediately reached out and slapped Jeonju but was easily restrained by her. The woman immediately bit Jeonju's hand hard. Jerome saw this and went to the block, but was slapped hard by her. Jerome was so heartbroken that he was about to burst into tears. Seeing that the other woman kicked the flower bell too much, Jeonju only hit the opponent with unstoppable force. Then immediately go out to the customs officer, but they don't know that they have poked someone who shouldn't. Then she used the excuse of assaulting others to force Jerome and Jeonju to bow down and apologize to her. He also threatened his father as a member of his association. Because the enemy's reliance was too great, the airport security team only investigated this matter. Because Jeonju was off shift at that time, Jerome's employee card was dropped in the toilet and was picked up by the security staff. Everyone asked Jerome who was the airport security officer who hit the passenger. Jerome didn't want Jeonju to stand up, so he lied that he didn't know the other party. But strangely, listening to Jerome's story, he seemed to have guessed who this female security guard was. Very quickly, the information was transmitted to the airport's senior management Hee-sung. In order to protect the reputation of the airport, he orders Seokin to make her staff immediately apologize to the passengers. Even if it is not a pillow demon or a green letter, this matter must be solved definitively. Seokin originally wanted to explain on Jerome's behalf, but Hee-sung refused to listen. The two began to argue because of this. At this time, Jerome stood up because she didn't want her team leader to be embarrassed, and she was willing to apologize. Anyway, I only made one employee kneel and I didn't slap anything. Deki knew that Jerome was going to apologize for this talk to Jeonju. Jeonju didn't want Jerome to suffer the consequences of his mistake, so he rushed to the airport. At this time, the other guest was sitting in the room with a smug expression. At this time, Seo-jun suddenly walked in because the water bottle in the room was broken, so he came to fix it, and she didn't notice. Soon Seojun and Seokin brought Jerome over, and the other female passenger still kept her face maliciously. And when Seojun apologizes, Seojun's appearance surprises everyone. Just like that, one side of Seojun apologizes, the other side of Seojun keeps making noise. Seojun's actions make Jerome realize something. And when Seo-jun told Jerome to apologize, Jerome remembered Seojun's words. If that's why you give up not saying what you think is right, then she would never hear what she wanted to hear. Seo-jun urges Jerome to apologize again. At this time Jerome is talking about what happened in the toilet. Hope you apologize to me. As soon as she heard this, the other female passenger immediately got angry and said that she would find a lawyer to sue the airport. But at this time, her voice came again. "Allo, Lawyer Kim, I still can't tell my father. If my father knew that he had beaten me to death, he would definitely not tell anyone. Have you listened?" In addition, she just wanted to scare everyone in the airport so that they would abolish the customs clearance procedure. At this time, Seo-jun promptly appeared to help, making Jerome want to cry. In the end, the other female passenger only put a little anger on her shirt. By the time Jeongju arrived, everything had been resolved perfectly. Because of this, Jerome was praised by the leader of the group for the first time, and he did a good job. This made Jerome extremely moved. She couldn't hold back her tears, and she left. "Because you had to apologize every time before, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry." She had never thought that it was fair to herself, and today all the courage and strength was entrusted to her by Seo-jun. At this moment, Seo-jun was standing behind her silently looking at her. After being seen by Seo-jun that she complimented Seo-jun's expression today was extremely excellent. The latter always competes for repairing the water purifier like another party. "What's wrong? Why doesn't the water come out?" Seeing Jerome so happy that he shed tears, Seo-jun seemed to have gradually come to like her. At this moment, a robot vacuum cleaner was attracted by Seo-jun's metal arm, and it was constantly following behind him. Seo-jun ran towards Jerome because he wanted to dodge this robot. But a second later at the airport, a woman who was about to give birth. But she didn't want to give birth to this baby, just because her husband hadn't appeared yet. But she didn't know that at this time, her husband flew back from abroad. As soon as he arrived at the airport, he was taken away by airport staff because of a problem with his passport. So the pregnant woman insisted that if she couldn't meet her husband, she wouldn't give birth. Jerome, for ensuring the safety of the pregnant woman and the baby, said that he would definitely help her find her husband. At this time, the pregnant woman agreed to go to the central hospital next to the airport. In the office to make entry documents because he had previously used a fake passport, he was about to be raised and returned to the country. He begged the staff here to let him meet his young new child and leave, but the leader of the immigration department accidentally refused. This side Jerome hurriedly searched for the pregnant woman's husband at the exit and sent his picture to Seo-jun. Tell him if he sees the person in the picture by talking about her. At this time, Seo-jun went to the exit room to wait for the water purifier to be repaired. Accidentally discovered it. That the man in front of him was the one Jerome was looking for. Just at this moment, the staff came to call his name, the plane flying home was coming, and she was about to take him on the plane. Seo-jun hurriedly contacted Jerome and told her that he probably didn't see his wife and children because he was about to fly back to his country. Jerome couldn't stand idly by and look at the man who had come so close to his wife about his child. But he still couldn't meet him. Fixed going to see his superiors to beg. And at this time, the other man took the opportunity to go to the toilet to call his lover. On the phone, the two were extremely attached and desperate. At this time, seeing the pregnant woman crying made Daiki and Jeongju sitting next to her also feel heartbroken. Waiting until the man came out of the toilet, he pushed the airport staff out and hurriedly ran away. Seo-jun saw this and quickly chased after him. He risked his life to flee and Seo-jun followed closely until there was no more way to run. He stopped. He begged Seo-jun to see his wife and children, but Seo-jun didn't have the right to do so. At a critical moment, he took out a pen from his pocket and pointed it at Seo-jun, and immediately stabbed at Seo-jun. The sound of metal colliding sounded, and at this time the other guy was so surprised that he rolled his eyes. After Seo-jun pulled out the pen in his hand and then put the pen behind his back, the other guy still refused to stop his hand and attacked Seo-jun. But soon Seo-jun dodges the painting, causing him to fall downstairs. Luckily Seo-jun catches him in time. Then Seo-jun only mentioned lightly and brought him into the corridor from the outside. At this time, the people in the security group rushed over, and Seo-jun hurriedly stepped on the pen with his foot and put his arm behind his back. Seo-jun ran away and kept his secret, so he told the airport security team that he was fine. But coincidentally, the scene just now was seen by Inwoo. Inwoo was extremely surprised. On the other side, Jae-rum told Seo-jun about this. At this time, Jae-rum also received a picture of the newborn baby sent by Jeongju. Jae-rum held the picture and begged Seo-jun to let their families meet. Finally, Seo-jun helps the family talk to each other through a glass. Finally, the woman met her husband at this time. The whole family is both happy and sad. Our children. Jae-rum and everyone standing next to him were also moved after Seo-jun returned to work. Something happened outside of Inwoo. At the moment when Seo Jun puts the pen down, the metal paper clip and fountain pen are suddenly sucked by his arm. It can be seen that his metal arm has malfunctioned. Seo Jun didn't notice either, but when he got up, he thought back that his arm was probably because he had been hit by a pen just now. He went up to the storage room to check his arm. Fortunately, it only failed for a short period of time. At this time, not far from the airport, a plane was preparing to land when the engine suddenly caught fire. In the plane, all the passengers were scared. On the other hand, Jae-rum had just come home from work to pick up her mother at the airport when she suddenly saw the plane crashing in the air. Then all employees in the airport received an emergency landing message. When he learned that his mother was on that plane, Jae-rum's heart was like a fire. Seo Jun also receives a phone call from Seo Kuin assigning him a task. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Jae-rum standing upstairs. She looked anxiously at the plane in the sky. This made Seo Jun remember that when he was about to end his shift, Jae-rum was extremely happy. He knew that there were acquaintances of hers on the plane. Mother, when the plane landed, there were no accidents outside the rules. Fire trucks have been waiting here for a long time, starting rescue work. Seeing this, Jae-rum ran out to find her mother despite everything, but was stopped by Seo Jun, and told her that area was not allowed to enter arbitrarily. But when he saw Jae-rum's face, Seo Jun immediately stood up. "What's wrong with you? My mother was on that flight. My mother was on that flight." Then Seo Jun called Seo Kuin to tell Jae-rum's mother who was on the flight. Hopefully he can let Jae-rum inside the airport. But Seo Kuin refused his request. Seo Jun saw Jae-rum extremely sad. He decided to take action on the way. Seo Jun calls Jae-rum. After asking her mother's name, she answered the phone. Then he ran quickly into the ambulance and lied that he had received orders from his superiors to come here to help. After entering the airport, Seo Jun hurriedly asked each passenger if they were Jae-rum's mother. And this wing was also seen by the lullaby on the side. Moreover, she was very curious why he appeared here. At this time, on the plane, news came that someone was injured. Seo Jun immediately ran there and treated the woman's wounds. After learning that she was Jae-rum's mother, he was relieved. But when Seo Jun took the glass, his unusable arm fell down. At this time, the rescue team immediately ran over so as not to be exposed. Seo Jun hurriedly escaped. Jae-rum finally found her mother safely out. The two excitedly hugged each other, and Seo Jun silently stood by the side looking at the mother and daughter. After that, Seo Jun left with peace of mind. Before leaving, her mother also called Jae-rum and told her to thank the person who saved her on the plane. Then Jae-rum went to the security department to thank them. But in the lullaby she said that they didn't save her, and told her to go and ask Seo Jun. Seo Jun was now picked up by the doctor. At this time, Jae-rum called, but he did not answer the phone. But after Seo Jun returned home after being treated by the doctor, Jae-rum sent a message. "See you at the first place where the two of you meet." Jae-rum brought a backpack that Seo Jun had forgotten at work and stood there waiting for him. But Seo Jun is still wondering whether to go or not. Waiting for it to get darker and darker, Jae-rum still didn't see Seo Jun's figure anywhere. After the rain, I don't know how long to wait. When Jae-rum raised his head, Seo Jun appeared in front of her. Jae-rum asks if he saved her mother at the airport, right? But Seo Jun denies it. But after Jae-rum says that Jongju has seen him, he admits it. Then Jae-rum asked him why he did that. Could it be that he likes to do good deeds silently? No, it is not. Then do you like me? At this time, Seo Jun was dumbfounded, and the two of them looked at each other with 4 eyes until the rain stopped. Seo Jun replied, "That's right." Seo Jun always feels guilty because his body is broken, but he was finally able to muster up the courage to confess his love to Jae-rum. Unexpectedly, the next day Jae-rum came to look for him, ask him clearly that they have only been working together for 3 months. Why did he like an ordinary person like her? Seo Jun talked about her wanting to vibrate with someone who probably took 3 weeks or 3 years, but he only used 3 seconds. This made Jae-rum incomprehensible. It turns out that many years ago in a store there was a place called the place where the star fell. Seo Jun just met and fell in love with Jae-rum, and the overturned car before was also Seo Jun silently protecting Jae-rum. Just at this moment, a group of passersby bumped into her. Jae-rum fell straight into Seo Jun's arms. At this moment, Seo Jun felt the warmth of the other party that was both warm and sweet. But the beautiful moments are always short-lived. Noticing that these two people were a little embarrassed, Jae-rum quickly left Seo Jun's arms. But her arm accidentally came to Seo Jun's arm. Immediately she sensed something. While she was still confused, Seo-jun hurriedly pushed her hand away. Then he left in a panic. When Jae-rum returned to the office to prepare to get the documents for her superiors, accidentally saw Seo-jun's weakness on the table. So Jae-rum read it curiously. Unexpectedly, it clearly stated that he was a level 1 disabled person. So Jae-rum was even more surprised. Jae-rum didn't know what to do. When asked by her best friend what the conversation between her and Seo-jun was, Jae-rum was about to speak when he stopped. At the same time, when inspecting the warehouse, airport staff discovered a suitcase of unknown origin. Seo-jun was extremely angry. Do people consider this place to be their warehouse? And the Marrow left his suitcase here. If I catch anyone leaving their suitcase here, they will die with me. At this time, Jae-rum stood up and took the suitcase as hers. This made Seo-jun sen. It turned out that the house she was living in had expired. She was going to move out of the middle house because the division would be finished tomorrow. So she is just leaving her luggage here. After work, Jae-rum pulled the suitcase alone and sat in front of the door. Now she had nowhere to go. Coincidentally, this scene was seen by Seo-jun. Seo-jun invites Jae-rum if she doesn't mind being able to come to his house for a night. Jae-rum then follows Seo-jun to his middle house. But Jae-rum thought about it and still found this inappropriate. And just as she was about to leave, Seo-jun called her back. He told her that she didn't need to think about what the two of them had to do with each other. Seo-jun prepares the dark step for Jae-rum, and when Jae-rum picked up the level, the two of them accidentally touched each other's hands. At this time, Jae-rum remembered the feeling of the morning touching Seo-jun's hand, but Jae-rum just looked at Seo-jun silently. Although it was big, she didn't ask much, because she knew that Seo-jun didn't want to talk about the past. And Seo-jun avoided this problem because he was afraid when he told me that he was disabled. Then Jae-rum will criticize him. The next day, when Jae-rum came out of Seo-jun's house, he accidentally encountered the Jangju of the airport security team. Jangju had just moved into this middle house today, and I thought Jae-rum also lived here. At this time, Jae-rum was extremely panicked, and she hurriedly explained that she knew a friend who lived here. When she arrives at work, Jae-rum hurriedly tells Seo-jun that she accidentally met Jangju this morning, and that he must not tell anyone that she spent the night at his house last night, because she didn't want people to talk about her. Seo-jun agrees with her. But just as Jae-rum was leaving, there was a noise behind him. When Seo-jun passed by to see who it was, he saw a black balloon pen open the door and rushed out. Just as Jae-rum was about to go to work, he accidentally saw the Jangju group discussing something. After Jae-rum returned from work, she didn't expect that the matter between her and Seo-jun was being stirred up by her colleagues. Jae-rum went mad. She remembered the Jangju group talking and laughing just now. He immediately confirmed that this was because Jangju told everyone about it. After meeting Jangju, Jae-rum angrily scolded Jangju for a fight. But Jangju was puzzled and didn't understand what Jae-rum was saying. Enough at this time, Seo-jun appeared and dragged Jae-rum away and told her that the two of them were talking to each other in the dressing room earlier, and there was someone else. At this time, Jae-rum knew that he had wronged Jangju. Waiting for Seo-jun to come home from work, he saw Jae-rum standing downstairs waiting for him. Tonight you can move into the middle house you've been given. Seo-jun then took out her luggage and asked for her house number. As soon as he saw the house number, Seo-jun knew that Jae-rum lived in the same house as Jangju. At this time, Jae-rum was very surprised. She thought that she scolded Jangju like that during the day. At night, how could the faces meet her? At this time, Seo-jun said to her, "I heard that there is nothing random in this world. There are no coincidences in this world. Everything that happens in this life has a reason." Hearing this sentence, Jae-rum was even more surprised because when she was a child, her parents also told her this sentence. So Jae-rum asked Seo-jun, "Let me ask, do you know my father?" "Yes, I do know him." Ask why. When Seo-jun and his brother were young, they often went to the other store and the owner of the store was Jae-rum's father. At the airport, a passenger shouted and poured a whole bottle of water on the head of an airport employee. Moreover, he always scolded the staff. The staff tried to restrain and protect passengers from bringing water on board. The surrounding passengers constantly criticized the other passenger. But he was even more nervous than trying to move his hands and feet with the staff. At this time, the airport staff couldn't stand it anymore, and finally the two rushed into a fight. The group chief was about to stop the two but was pushed away by the other man. Seeing this, Su-ran was afraid that this would deeply affect the image of the airport, and hurriedly ran over and pulled the airport staff out. At this time, the employee realized that his behavior at this time was very impolite. Then the other man used the excuse that airport staff used force against customers, to ask the staff to pay for the plane and the mental loss. After that, Ingu also came to solve the case. The passenger insisted that the other employee apologize to him and pay for the plane. The group chief immediately apologized to the guests. "I'm sorry. But the employee felt that he was not wrong. I just follow the regulations, so I don't have to apologize." At this time, Ingu said to the employee from the day he came here to work and receive his salary, no matter what happened, he had to endure customers. But the slippery coin on the side couldn't help but say Lotus employees also have their jobs and responsibilities, not sitting without pay. Ingu saw this slippery coin saying that, so it was okay for these two people to be fired, right? Hearing this, both of them were worried that they would be fired, and their eyes immediately burst into tears. The head of the group did not hesitate to apologize for attending this event because his wife and children were at his house, and he came down to beg the other guest for forgiveness.
I'm sorry, I'm really sorry.
This action of the group chief made the other employee even more depressed. At this moment, the captain of the airport security team, John Muja, came to help the group up. Muja then listed that the other passenger not only violated aviation laws, but also insulted and hit airport staff, which was the other man's fault. The passenger was very angry after hearing this, and he said that the airport staff lay down and grabbed his collar first. At this time, Jairam on the side showed the video. Then there was authentic evidence that the guest was willing to shut up, embarrassed all over his face. Sujian saw that Jairam was promptly defusing the situation, looking at her with a proud smile. When Sujian asked Jairam to go out for a walk, he looked at Jairam's hand in his heart and suddenly had a bold thought. He then pretended to be calm and pulled his left hand out of his pocket and tried to reach out to Jairam's hand. But the photo roof still does not have enough space to lie on her hand. And when he took all the courage to lie down on her hand, then, "Hey Mr. Sujian, what's wrong?" Jairam tells Sujian it turns out that when she was 9 years old, her father left her. Jairam didn't expect that Sujian knew his father. At that moment, Sujian finally grabbed Jairam's hand. And at this moment, the two of them looked at each other intently. Jairam closed his eyes. Sujian couldn't see close to his face and hers. Apart from the time when the two of them were about to kiss, Sujian told Jairam to go and call the police. Then he quickly put a kiss on her lips, then ran to the place where the people were fighting. The man who saw Sujian worried about the matter was about to teach him a lesson. But as soon as he threw the blow, Sujian was able to dodge it gently, then grabbed his fist, then used his strength. The man was in so much pain that he couldn't stop screaming. Another person slammed Sujian's leg with a stick. The wooden stick shattered without Sujian's legs moving. After that, Sujian swung his hand, and the man who was thrown into the garbage cave fainted. Later, Sujian accidentally discovers that the person who was beaten is the captain of the airport team for Moja. And while he was wondering behind him, suddenly someone with an electric baton stuck to him, causing him to faint. His prosthetic limbs also began to smoke at this time. Wait until Jairam leads the police to the place where the other people and Sujian have disappeared. At this time, Moja was taking the injured Sujian to the doctor's place. After Sujian regained consciousness, his injured arm was crawled by the doctor. Due to severe burns on his arm, the muscles on his arm were also damaged. The doctor told him not to use a prosthetic hand in the future. Otherwise, it is very likely that the muscles on his arm will be necrotic. He also told him to use a wheelchair to move later. The next day, Jairam heard that Sujian was not going to work, so he was extremely worried. She kept calling him but still didn't see anyone answering the phone. As soon as Sujian woke up that day, he saw Jairam's phone and a message asking for him. It made him unconsciously remember the stories of the two before. At this time, Sujian finds out that he is deeply in love with Jairam. Even though he faced the risk of necrosis, he did not want to go to his loved one. Then he put on a prosthetic limb and then stood up. Then he changed his clothes. He looked at the doctor when he had not yet gone out to get the doctor's car lock. Then he drove to meet the girl he always watched in his heart. After the doctor found out, he hurriedly called Sujian. But after seeing the doctor leave, he didn't bother to notice. After that, the doctor immediately contacted Seikun, the leader of Sujian's group. Tell her that Sujian's situation is extremely dangerous right now. It is very likely that Sujian is going to the airport to look for Jairam at this time. So Seikun quickly went to ask Jairam, but Jairam didn't know anything. After that, She called Sujin on the phone and ran around looking for him. She eventually finds Sujin on the rooftop. At this moment, she was extremely excited. The husband slowly walked to the man's side, making her miss the day and night. Jaeram worriedly asks Sujin why he suddenly disappeared. She said she was very worried about him. Why didn't she answer the phone? She doesn't stop saying words of concern to Sujin, which makes Sujin very happy. Then he said, "Let's fall in love." At this time, the two looked at each other affectionately, hugged each other and greeted each other with a burning kiss. This beautiful setting and sweet love touched everyone. Soon Sujin was satisfied and left, and the doctor and Sekun were angrily standing at the door waiting for him. While the doctor criticized Sujin for acting on his own, he saw that his mouth was still stained with lipstick. Sekun immediately recognized Sujin's thoughts. He was safe. Sekun smiled wickedly and left. The doctor couldn't help but give Sujin a towel for him to wipe his mouth. That is something that cannot be done. Although he was embarrassed, Sujin was still happy in his heart. By this evening, Zaru still didn't know Sujin's health situation, so he asked him out. The doctor once again stopped him, but Sujin stubbornly wanted to go. The doctor saw that Sujin was so stubborn and didn't know what to do. But when he got to the front of Sujin's right-hand car, he suddenly lost control and the lock fell to the ground. This made him immediately feel afraid. But a second later, Sujin's arm was restored again. Sujin's hand was only temporarily faulty, but when he bent down to pick up the lock, he thought it was okay. At this time, Sujin was dumbfounded on the spot, and suddenly his arm lost control again. Start smoking the car on the side. He tried his best to pull his hand out, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. At this moment, the glass door was cracked, and he felt extremely helpless and desperate. Therefore, the glass door was shattered, but his hand still sucked tightly into the car body. If the person who went to school used to catch you, when the pendant grows up, it seems very close to you, what will you do? She is a central tour guide, finding Jerome working at the airport beneficial to his current job. So he ran excitedly to greet Jerome, and said that he had a friend to rely on this morning. This unusual attitude surprised Jerome. Before waiting for Jerome to open her mouth, she snatched Jerome's phone. He saved his phone number in Jerome's phone, and asked her to go out to eat yet. After the central region was gone, Jerome stood as if waiting for her husband, still unable to calm down. This made her remember her past where she had endured all the humiliation. She involuntarily clenched her hands. But what people didn't expect was that after the central region went into the toilet, immediately called his friend, filmed that I had just met my friend Jerome in high school who was bullied by me. Moreover, at noon, she wanted Jerome to make some VIP cards for her. After going out, she immediately pasted the names of the passengers she was about to pick up on the railing. Coincidentally, this scene was seen by Jerome. It was obvious that her behavior was not in accordance with the airport regulations. But Jerome did not dare to come and speak. Facing the person who bullied him in high school, Jerome was very afraid. But in the end, she still mustered up all the courage to go to remind the central region. The central facial teeth immediately changed, but still tried to be happy, tearing down with the arrow. Later, Jerome declined her invitation to lunch. Later, Jerome hoped that the two of them would not stalk each other anymore. After speaking, Jerome left, walking to a corner, although Jerome was extremely panicked in his heart. But she was still glad that she had the courage to do so. But Jerome didn't know that the central region was not so easily ignored for her. On the other hand, when Sue Jones went out on a date with Jerome, as soon as he walked to the side of the car, his arm was sucked tightly by the car. Just at this moment, Jerome's best friend Unsup happened to pass by, accidentally heard the sound of glass breaking. When he went there to see why, he really couldn't believe what he was seeing. The glass door was shattered, the glass fell all over the ground, and the car door was also seriously deformed. At this time, Sue Jones was hiding in the back of the car. His arm was bleeding non-stop. His robotic arm had a problem. At this point, Sue Jones just wanted no one to see him, but he was still being seen. Then Unsup took Sue Jones back to the middle house. But at this time, the items in the room attracted Unsup's attention. After going outside, he looked towards Sue Jones' house, which seemed to have noticed something. At this time, in the house, the muscle on Sue Jones' arm was more seriously injured. After the tape was removed, the doctor suspected that what had happened earlier was due to a problem with the chip in Sue Jones' body. To prevent the same thing from happening again, the doctor advised him not to wear a prosthetic limb for the time being. But Sue Jones still wanted to resist for another month. In addition, last night Sue Jones was electrocuted and rolled to the ground and was discovered by the Muja. Sue Jones was scared after Muja gave his secret father to tell everyone. He will no longer be able to live like a normal person. So he took the initiative to find Muja and ask for Muja for a month, and at the end of a month he would automatically ask for leave. And he did it because he wanted to work at the airport for the last month. He can be with the Ziru girl he loves. He didn't want Ziru to know that his body was broken. Early the next morning, he wore a prosthetic limb again, wearing the watch that his brother had given him. Wearing a dashing suit to the airport to work. Once again, Sue Jones and Ziru worked together. But at this time, the phones of the two were sewn at the same time, and the person who called Sue Jones was a blessing. He wanted to see Sue Jones to talk about last night. On this side, Ziru received a phone call from Myeonjong. In addition, she was behind Ziru. Knowing Ziru and Sue Jones' relationship, at the restaurant, she threatened Ziru to give her 4 VIP passes. Otherwise, she would have talked about the high school Ziru bullied to her boyfriend and her co-workers. Ziru left angrily. Not wanting Sue Jones to know about her tragic past, she went to find the person in charge of the pass, Ingu. But she didn't know how to open her mouth. At this point, Ingu tells Ziru that he is Sue Jones' brother. He was about to talk about Sue Jones' body when Sue Jones suddenly appeared at the door of the room. Sue Jones asked Ingu what she wanted to do. Taking this opportunity, Ingu asked Zhu if it wasn't the last time she saw Ziru's profile that he was a 1-star disabled person. Don't you want to know what is hiding behind Sue Jones' coat? When she saw that Ingu was about to tell Ziru her secret, Sue Jones suddenly couldn't help but control her emotions. As Sue Jones' arm trembled thick with all the metal objects in the donkey room falling to the ground. At this time, both of them were surprised by what they saw. Seeing this, Sue Jones hurriedly pushed down the metal items in her hand. He hugged his arm and hurriedly ran away. Ziru saw the metal objects falling all over the ground. She knew that Sue Jones had a secret in her heart that she didn't want others to touch. At this time, Sue Jones took off her coat and pants, grabbed her arm and ran into the machine cave. He didn't want anyone to know his secret, but he was about to enter the elevator when he saw a pile of metal items in front of him, and he stopped again. There was no other way. He ran into the room full of things alone to hide. At this moment, Ziru used the radio to call Sue Jones. But Sue Jones was silent and did not speak. He was a disabled person, so he didn't know how to deal with the Buddha. At this time, he was in a very uncomfortable dilemma, because Ziru's best friend Unsup had also come to look for him earlier. Tell Sue Jones that I saw a wheelchair in his house last night, so I should ask him what was wrong. Unsup clearly knew that Sue Jones' body was not healing, but he still wanted Unsup to keep it a secret. Although Unsup also loves Ziru, he knows that Ziru loves Sue Jones, and he doesn't want Ziru to be around the person who has always hidden her. He thinks that in love there should be no deception. Unsup gives Sue Jones between now and the weekend so that he can tell Ziru his secret. In the office, Ziru looked towards Sue Jones with a rich face, because she also had a tragic past that she didn't want to let Sue Jones know. But at this moment, someone threatened to tell Sue Jones about Ziru's bullying in high school. And when Ziru didn't know what to do, Selkin went to put 4 VIP passes on Ziru's table. Or it turns out that Selkin was also at the restaurant at that time and knew that Ziru was being threatened. But at this time, Selkin said that if Ziru could endure it once, she would be threatened forever. Hopefully she can think carefully and then make a decision. After that, Ziru took the pass to meet Minyoung. She was very happy to see that Ziru had earned the card so quickly, but she didn't know that Ziru didn't intend to give it to her. Ziru then tells Minyoung that even though she was bullied during that time, she had a very difficult life. But thanks to her mother's attention, she overcame that time. And now she was no longer afraid of Minyoung. She was no longer threatened by her. After speaking, Ziru immediately took 4 passes in his hand. Then he walked straight for a circuit without turning around. In the evening, Sujin came home and told the doctor. He seemed to know why his body kept appearing strange phenomena. What is the cause of the error? It was Hanzu. In addition, the first time he met Ziru, this phenomenon had already appeared. Then when Sujin's feelings for Ziru deepened, the frequency of his equipment having problems is increasing. But now he loves Ziru deeply, and so he didn't know how he would have to deal with Ziru in the future. At this moment, Ziru called the phone. Sujin was originally going to not answer the phone, but the doctor still gave it to him. On the phone, Ziru said to him, "What happened just now? If you don't want to talk, you cannot talk. I'm sure you have a good reason." Ziru understood Sujin's heart, which made him extremely moved. He said silently in his heart, "It's really okay." The next day, Sujin pulls Ziru onto the rooftop and asks her if she finds him strange. But Ziru thinks that between people and people who are inherently different, so she doesn't care about Sujin's strangeness. At this time, Sujin tells Ziru that because of her, he often has problems. Hearing that, Ziru was very puzzled. But Sujin didn't say why, he just raised his hand and gently touched her hair. At this time, Sujin really wants to kiss her, but still doesn't have the courage to do so. "I'm sorry. I hope you give me some time." Inside the airport, a man with a knife was holding a knife to the neck of an airport employee. Ziru, despite the danger, went to stop him, but was slashed by him. Her bag was cut off from the bottom to the ground, and blood was constantly dripping on the bag. Therefore, everyone around him was afraid with all his soul. Ziru looked at his wound so scared that he sat down on the ground. At this time, Deki and Jiangju from the airport security team rushed over. Deki surged and dropped the man's knife and did not force him into the receptionist. Ziru gradually fainted at Jiangju's call. Jiangju hurriedly called Sujin. When Sujin heard that Ziru was injured, his face showed a tense expression. Then suddenly a guy got into Sujin's body, and the phone fell down the stairs. Sujin wanted to bend down to pick it up, but he couldn't pick it up. A second later, he fell from the ramp. He dragged his disabled body forward. But the phone was close in front of me but seemed to be far away on the horizon. When he finally got the phone, he found out that the other end of the line had been turned off. This side when the medical staff came to treat the wound for Ziru. And the other man looked at Deki when he was distracted and attacked Deki with his head. Then ran away. By the time Deki chased him to the airport door, he had already run away. Sujin sat flat on the ground. He looked at his disabled body in great pain. The feeling of beautiful love is just a dream. Then he took his body full of wounds to the airport to find Seekin. Ask who injured Seekin said that a female employee at the airport broke up with her lover. His lover didn't care to come to the airport to threaten Ziru, had a feeling that this had just happened. After learning that, Sujin didn't say much, just clenched his hands, and left angrily. Next, he found the other employee who knew the appearance of her ex-lover, and know more about the shop he often frequents. At this time, he was sitting in the restaurant happily playing games, not realizing that danger was approaching. Waiting for him to come out of the bar and was about to light a cigarette. Suddenly someone grabbed his shirt and threw him on the ground. Then 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, the other person kept raising his lower leg and lowering his forearm with him. Then grabbed him like an axe, picking up a chick to lift him up. He didn't know that he had angered a super lover except his girlfriend. At this time he was still screaming, constantly scolding me, pulling out the knife in his pocket and preparing to counterattack. But Suchun didn't give him a chance. He threw another blow to the opponent's face. He was scared with all his soul while screaming and running away, but he was still dragged back to fight one more battle. Then the team of the airport security team received a phone call from a stranger. When he went to the toilet and opened the door, he saw the man threatening the staff. At the airport yesterday he was beaten to death and tied up here. At this moment, Suchu came to Jerome's bedside, and saw that his beloved was wounded, and he was deeply heartbroken. The next day, the other man was taken to the police raid where Jerome also came to coordinate with the police to investigate. Just as he met the other man, he looked at Jerome with a deep smile that scared her to the point of goosebumps. Immediately afterwards, Suchan reached out his hand for Jerome to come to her side to protect her. After he saw the foot coins, he immediately realized that the foot coins were the ones who beat him yesterday. Immediately lowered his head before leaving, he remembered Suchan's name. Suchan didn't know that this man would also bring trouble to him in the future. On the other side of the man's boss, Manager Joe, went to see Ingu to ask Ingu to sponsor his brother. But Ingu immediately refused. If you come to manage Joe, what do you say? The person who beat his junior is also named Suchan, right? This reminded Manager Joe of Ingu's brother who had an accident, apparently also named Suchan. At this time, Ingu suddenly felt tense. He repeatedly denied this, and advised him to try to manage his juniors well. In order for Ingu to leave, Manager Joe began to give the investigator a penny. In the evening, he still didn't know that he had been targeted by a group of deep people for protecting his girlfriend. An accident made the younger brother extremely disappointed in his brother, only because his brother ran away when he saw his toy top lying on the ground. Actually, Suchan didn't know that Ingu didn't escape. He was still caught by Joe's management team. It turns out that in the hands of the Ingu there is evidence of the crimes of Manager Joe and the president. Just now, when he saw them taking the Ingu away, it was because he caught the Ingu to give evidence. But the plate with the evidence had now been left in the shop where the star had fallen, and the owner gave it to the coin. It wasn't until Su-chan went out to look for his brother that the accident occurred earlier. At this time, Manager Joe made Ingu take out the disc with the evidence, but he said that he had lost the disc. Manager Joe angrily gave Ingu a shot. Then Manager Joe took out the coin of the seriously injured foot that was about to lose his life to scare the Ingu. In order to protect his younger brother, he begged them not to harm his younger brother. "Please don't do that, Su-chan knew nothing, can you spare my brother?" Not long after, the patrol at the airport saw his brother talking to a man. When he saw the other party's face clearly, he realized that he was the one who beat his brother that year. He was very surprised why Ingu was sitting with that person. Su-chan came to see Ingu to ask why he thought that Ingu he talked to in the past, so he didn't dare to face him. Unexpectedly, it was actually because of those people. This made Su-chan misunderstand Ingu. But Ingu always warned him, "Shut up," and disappeared out of my sight. Waiting for the foot to look at Manager Joe. He didn't know that the man who assaulted his girlfriend who had beaten him before was his junior. Arriving at the foot of the foot and Jerome went home together. On the way, the two happily held hands. Su-chan put a kiss on Jerome's lips, intending to tell Jerome about his body. So he invited Jerome to his house, and he told her to turn away. He went into the room alone, then he took off his coat under his shirt, and then slowly turned around. "Now I can turn around." Jerome thought he wanted to go further with her. She was extremely nervous and couldn't stop explaining. But when she turned around, he was so different. In order to relieve the tension, Jerome did not stop drinking water, so that when he had finished changing, he went out. He asked Jerome if he could accept himself like this. Although Jerome didn't say anything, before leaving, she forgot to put down the glass of water. Obviously, Jerome still can't hide his surprise. But when Jerome went outside, Su-chan suddenly found himself bleeding from the nose. He didn't know that because his arm was injured before. He often used a prosthetic hand. Now his right arm was severely bruised. The next day, Jerome saw the sad foot sitting on the chair. The lady lay down with her hand and dragged him to the deserted corridor, and then she pushed the foot coin against the wall. At this time, Su-chan was extremely nervous. "What were you doing?" Jerome told him after she had rested all night. She was willing to accept everything from him, willing to give her love to him. At this moment, touched by Jerome's words, he turned to press Jerome against the wall. At this time, Su-chan looked at her with deep eyes. The two hugged each other tightly, feeling their love for each other. On the other hand, the doctor was extremely sad because he had just received the medical examination report of the Chan-chan. He discovered that the muscles of his arm were severely inflamed, requiring a closer examination. So the doctor called Su-chan to tell him to come back, but he refused. He said he was fine, he didn't need to be checked, and then turned off the phone. In the evening, Jerome and his colleagues went out to eat and sing kara together. Su-chu is like a child sitting still on the sofa. Looking at the girl Jerome playing, he was extremely happy in his heart. But soon he didn't stop having a nosebleed. He hurriedly ran into the toilet to wash. Unexpectedly, he saw that the bruises on his hands had spread to his neck. The doctor's advice made him realize the seriousness of the problem. After returning, Jerome crossed his arms and asked if he wanted to travel with her on the upcoming vacation. At this time, Su-chan just looked at Jerome and didn't answer because he didn't know if he could still live until then. He hugged Jerome tightly, but in his heart he was full of worry. Waiting for the two of them to go home, the doctor went to see Jerome and told her about the state of his health. "I hope she can advise Su-chan to quickly agree to the treatment." After the doctor left, Jerome felt very distressed. The next day, Jerome and Su-chan were sent by their superiors to the supermarket to buy things. After getting into the car, Jerome was not only concerned about whether his feet were well. Even when she was carrying things, she didn't let him do it. She alone carried all the newly bought items into the car. This made Su-chan incomprehensible. It was time for the two of them to return to the office. Jerome's usual expression made him suspicious. "I'm telling you the truth, I've met the doctor, right?" When he was repeatedly questioned by the emperor, Jerome told him what the doctor had said about her. Jerome hoped that he could take off the machines on his body, so that his body would gradually recover. But at this time, Su-chan suddenly had a thunderstorm. "Don't say it anymore. I told you not to talk anymore, Han Jerome." After that, Su-chan left angrily, and then he met the doctor directly to ask. The doctor said to Su-chan if he did not remove all the machinery on his body, If he misses, he will lose the best treatment time, and he will most likely be in danger of his life. But Su-chen didn't want treatment. He wanted to live a life like a normal person. Not wanting to live in a wheelchair, he went out after speaking. But once again he had a nosebleed. When he left here, he didn't know that there were two people in black watching him in the distance. Running to the park alone, suddenly a bright light flashed on his face. The two cars stopped in front of where he was sitting, and then the whole group of thugs with sticks stepped down. At this time, the leader of the group, Manager Joe, came over, and he came to teach Su-chong a lesson. I heard that not long ago you taught my juniors a lesson, right? I want to know how you did that. Show me your ability. Then a group of people with sticks went to surround Su-chan. Not long after, the foot coin was beaten and lying on the ground, but right now, wait. The bad guys didn't know that they didn't take action just now because they were afraid of beating them to death. Faced with the current situation, Su-chan couldn't hold back anymore. He grabbed the wooden stick and then broke it with his bare hands. He lay down by the collar of one of them and threw it away, then tickled the banyan to make others fly into the sky. This scene was about to make those people afraid. Su-chan walked straight in front of Manager Joe. How? Do you still want to continue fighting? Manager Joe couldn't say a word anymore, so angry that he gritted his teeth. Waiting after Jerome came back to see her foot hurt, she was very worried. Are you injured? Did you fall or what? Can we go to the hospital? You're okay, Jerome. Then Jerome took the foot coin to the middle house, carefully treating his wounds. Jerome was heartbroken and wanted to protect his foot, which made him unconsciously want this woman. Do you want to sleep here? Jerome was suddenly dumbfounded and didn't answer. She hurriedly took her things and left here, but as soon as she went out to the door, she came back again. Sleep well. At this time, Su-chen felt very happy. On the other side, Manager Joe angrily called Ingu to ask him what was the end of Su-chen's story. Inga didn't want her brother to be involved in this, so she said she wasn't used to it, and after speaking, she turned off the phone. Manager Joe saw that many of his juniors were injured and his beloved car was badly damaged. He must definitely make the foot coin pay a heavy price. Standing in front of the mirror and looking at his severely inflamed arm, he knew that his life would most likely be in danger. But in order to be able to see the person he loves every day, he still loses his sense of danger and goes to the airport to work. But at that moment, he dreamed of gradually losing consciousness, hoping that the child's nose would not stop. Li Jichen, you're fine, let's go to the hospital. I'm fine, wait for me for a while. Then he rushed to the toilet to wash the bloodstains. Jerome was outside extremely worried. Suddenly, a group of people came in to protect the area around Su-chan, obviously coming here to talk to him. At this time, the leader walked in front of Su-chan. Su-chan just looked at him and realized that he was the man with a knife who slashed at Jerome at the airport and was beaten to death by himself. He was pleased to be in front of the emperor, boasting that he had a good grandfather. Not only did he give me a bail slip, but he also paid my bail money out. As a result, you see, I was soon released. At this time, Jerome saw that the foot coin was in danger and hurried to find the decky of the airport security team. But when the decky arrived, the foot was no longer here. Then they extracted the camera and found the coin of the foot. They were going down to the parking lot in the basement. So Decky leads Jongju and the security team down to the garage in the basement to prevent them from taking the coin away. But the foot coin came out and told the Decky group not to bite them. He was scared just because he hurt many others. But Decky insisted on not letting the chin go with the other people. When the two sides of the teeth are clenched, Decky, can you hear it? Yes, the patriarch said. Everyone in the security team withdraw from there. It turned out that Moja had told Ingu about the story of the foot just now. Ingu promised to let Su-chen follow the other people. He promised to bring the foot coin back. Immediately retreated. Hurry up. Su-chan let the other 8 people take him to an abandoned factory. After receiving the news that Ingu was in a hurry to come here, he hoped that Manager Joe could spare his brother. But Manager Joe insisted on killing the scent. There was no other way. He told Manager Joe, "Do you want the drive of a few years ago to be announced to everyone?" He said he had lost the plate. "Didn't you think about it? I kept it to ensure my safety and my feet." At this time, Manager Joe was angry and swung his fist to knock down Ingu. Su-chan saw that his brother was being attacked and began to fight back against the bad people around him. At this moment, a thug with a stick knocked Ingu unconscious. Su-chan was angry and wanted to go to save his brother, but was hugged tightly by the bad guys. Next, Manager Joe took Ingu out. He told his juniors to throw the Ingu into the sea. The swing was seen by DK. After that, Manager Joe drove away. And at this time in the workshop, Su-chan was still fighting with the bad guys. Su-chan showed his ability to fight more than people, taking down one person after another. The man who used to slash the shell room saw his brothers being beaten to pieces, so scared that he didn't know what to do. Then he opened the door and tried to run away and gave him a shot, unable to restrain him. At this time, Su-chan opened the door, and then he slammed a heavy door that was thrown out. There the juniors were lying rolling, crawling on the ground. So I was so surprised that the match rolled my eyes. Su-chan walked in front of the other man and lifted him up with one hand. "Do you know where they took my brother? I can inquire." At this time, the Ingu had been taken to the shore, and as soon as they got off the car, the driver brought the foot coin. The bad guys saw this and hurriedly opened the trunk of the car and took the stick. As they walked towards the foot coin, Ingu saw the foot coin in front of them. He remembered the scene where the foot had saved him before brother. This time, he didn't want his brother to be in danger because of him. He hurriedly crawled over the chair, started the car and crashed directly into the bad guys. Unexpectedly, the car not only did not hit them, but also put Ingu in danger. Just like that, the car was suspended on the beach, which could fall down at any time. Just as the car was about to fall, the foot coin suddenly appeared. Everyone around him suddenly looked at Su-chan. Because he was using one arm to pull the car at this time, he tried his best to pull the car to the shore. But because he was injured on his body, he couldn't do it no matter how hard he tried. Inga didn't want to involve his brother, so he shouted, "Let go of the penny, I let go of my hand." Su-chan tried to endure the pain, but he definitely refused to let go of his hand. Just like that, the car was dragged to the shore by the foot of the foot. At this time, Su-chan saw that his brother was no longer in danger. A smile suddenly appeared on the face covered with sweat and tears of the foot coins. Because he sees Ingu coming to save him, this proves that his brother still cares about him. But by the time the foot coin returned, his body was too tired. Xiram saw her boyfriend in front of her and hurriedly ran over. Su-chan couldn't resist anymore and knelt on the ground. When he fainted, Xiram ran over and hugged him.
Li Zhenzen Li Shu Shen.
After returning, Xiram saw that Su-chan was seriously ill, extremely heartbroken. Next, she opened the bag and took out an electronic device and remembered the doctor's words. "You have to let the foot coin stop so that the foot coin can continue to live. This device can cause the machines on the foot to stop working." But at this time, she was very worried that she couldn't take action. The next day, when he woke up, he saw Xiram lying beside him. He knew that Xiram had taken care of him all night, and a happy smile suddenly appeared on his face. After waking up, Xiram prepared breakfast for him, but Xiram saw that Su-chan refused to take down the support machinery, and felt very awkward. The life he chose, others could arbitrarily force him to stop. After going to work, Xiram went to see Xiram and talked about the new chan that had been chiseled for him beforehand. At this time, Xiram had a bad feeling. She suddenly couldn't help but cry. "What should I do? I won't be able to see him anymore." Xiram then went to Su-chan and asked him why he had done it in the first place. She also hopes that the foot can remove the machine for treatment. She was willing to put her arm on the foot of the foot. "Don't leave me alone. Let me walk my life like this, Xiram. I don't want that, don't say that." Su-chan would rather die than put down the machine, causing Xiram to cry bitterly. Early the next morning, Xiram woke up to look at the fast asleep Su-chan. In order for him to live on, she gently stood up and took out the device that the doctor gave her. At the moment when she was in tears and hesitated to take action, Su-chan suddenly regained consciousness and lay down on Xiram's hand. "Let's live on, I'll wait for you, okay?" At this time, the foot coin did not stop Xiram. Therefore, Xiram bent down, and the two exchanged a deep kiss. Finally, the device also comes into contact with the body of the foot coin. Before a year passed, Xiram was working in the Flying People. Suddenly noticed a few janitors who were discussing something. Instead, Xiram went to inquire. Or someone caused trouble just now. A young man stopped the inspection, causing the whole inspection to be distorted. Xiram was extremely excited after hearing this, because she knew that the only person who could do this was that person. She immediately ran to look for her. At the moment when she was looking for a robot to clean the beast, her attention was Dusty. She saw that looking at the familiar shadow of her back was so excited that she burst into tears. When he turned around, Xiram realized that it was the person she had always expected. At this time, she cried and laughed and ran towards him and hugged him tightly in her arms. The content of the movie Where the Stars Fall. Do you think this movie is good? On a score of 10, how many points do you rate the film? Please send us an answer below the comments section. Thank you for your interest. Hello and see you soon.